So this came in my inbox the other day. I know, kind words. We all know that racial discrimination can have a bad effect when it comes to the mental health of those affected. But did you know that it can actually change the chemistry of the brain? Let me explain. Hi, my name is Mamobo Ogoro, founder of GORM and social psychologist. And if you want to learn how to unify across differences, make sure you subscribe to our page. The truth is that with the work here I do in GORM, I get hateful messages. You should probably go over to my TikTok page. In the comment sections, you will see all the hateration and the haters in that section when I'm just talking about random stuff. But it's a part and parcel of the work that I do and the work that a lot of people do when it comes to advocating for human rights. For me, when I started this work, and particularly when I started my research, my PhD kind of looks at online discourse as well as looking at systems of inclusion and exclusion as affects second-generation migrants. It kind of was depressing to see the amount of hatred that existed out there and the amount of people that just outwardly hate and outwardly discriminate individuals who have no say how they are created, for example. So this for me sparked a curiosity to really understand why people hate. With my own personal experience and seeing all of the online hate and discourse. Whereas for others who have prolonged experience for racism, it's a different story and it can actually affect the brain chemistry in their brains. In a recent study by Fani and colleagues, the researchers looked at how racism affects the brains of Black American women. And of course, I know some of you will be saying, how does this affect people in Ireland? We're in Ireland, X, Y, and Z. But I'll challenge you to go look over to some of the work of Dr. Epub Joseph. She just recently launched a book on the experiences of Black Irish women in the workplace, and it'll give you some context for those of you who are in Ireland. But going back to the study, the researchers not only looked at the experiences of the participants, but they also looked into the brain and the brain's function as a result. 116 Black American women took part in this study, which was part of a long-standing study on trauma in Atlanta. And these participants completed an assessment of racial discrimination, trauma exposure, and post-traumatic stress disorder, also known as PTSD. And they found that racism can change certain parts of the brain. Racism can start when people are children, and it can stick with them until they grow up. It's like a constant weight on your mind and on your shoulders, similar to being poor or going through times of hardship when you were young, example, bullying. This weight can change the brain and can make it likely that people feel more stressed and more upset in different situations. In this particular case, the researchers found that prolonged racism can change or even damage the brain's white matter. The brain's white matter is like wires in the brain that exchanges messages or information that is important for us to carry out everyday tasks. And they also found that racism can affect critical pathways that regulate emotions within our bodies. Prolonged exposure can also make people more likely to have problems with their memory and thinking as they get older. While the researchers did note that intersectionality and racism with other forms of historical discrimination can perpetuate different types of health inequities and different types of outcomes, this study goes to show that the outcomes of racism is not just a feeling and is not just bullying or harassment, but it can have lasting effects on the brain of those who are affected. And their communities. By understanding the unique association between racial discrimination and brain structure, we can have a deep understanding and a really impactful understanding as to how racism can really affect the lives of individuals and the health outcomes. So when people in your organizations, in your workplaces, in your environments, they continuously complain and they continuously report racial discrimination or racism within their environment, know and trust that it's not just a feeling that they're having and that it can have mental health and also wider health outcomes in their lives and in their environments. So take action when it comes to racial discrimination in your environment.